Hey, this is Dr. Jason Hahn with HealthFit Physical Therapy and Chiropractic. I am joined with Dr. Wendy Yu. She is owner, acupuncturist extraordinaire of Lotus. What's the full name of Lotus?
A Lotus Center for Integrative Medicine.
There we go. We've been good friends for a few years now. We've sent a lot of patients over her way, and her and her husband, Brandon, and their entire staff have done an incredible job of taking care of all of them. So I really wanted to put a name to a face to a name.
Sure.
Just ask you a few questions, if that's okay.
That's fine. Thank
All
you,
right.
Jason. Thank you, Dr. Hahn.
Oh, thank you. So, Dr. Wendy, tell us a little bit more about yourself, how you got into acupuncture.
Well, I don't know if I told you this, but I actually majored in exercise science and sports studies.
Ooh.
Back in the day. So I was on like the PT track, and I was doing a lot of work with corporate fitness, and I was trying to figure out like, well, where do I go with this? And so I was in my last year of undergrad, and my grandfather said, why don't you go to China and study acupuncture? Because back in the mid 90s, it was like, there weren't that many acupuncturists here. There were some, but it was definitely up and coming. So I'm like, what? You want to send me to China? I've been spending my entire life trying to not be Chinese, and you're making me, you want me to go to China? So, but then I actually decided to sort of check it out. And I was kind of looking online, and I read a few books, and there was this one book that's called The Web That Has No Weaver that completely steered me in this direction.
Wow.
And literally within like 2 months, I was out here in LA visiting Chinese medicine schools. And then like less than 6 months later, I was starting my master's degree.
Wow.
So it was a calling that it was so like, I knew right away. I'm like, holy crap, this is it.
Uh-huh.
So
that's crazy. Because you're born and raised in New York.
Yeah, I'm from New York, New Jersey.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And then so after acupuncture school,
yeah,
what happened after that?
Well, while I was in acupuncture school, I met my husband. So
Ooh, okay.
we and then he's from Ohio. I'm obviously from the East Coast, and, I initially thought I wanted to move back to New Jersey or New York to set up a practice. And then he was like, well, I'm not going to move anywhere cold. So that kind of rules out where you're from and where I'm from. So then we actually just started a practice here.
Okay.
So like right after school, we sort of set up shop, and it was hard in the beginning. It was really hard because you have to hustle.
Right. I think it's funny, like we go into professional school to become an acupuncturist, a physical therapist, but they don't teach you about business. Yeah. It's like, we just want to help people, but there's this whole other side to it.
That's right.
So how long has Lotus been around?
So we have been in practice since 99.
Okay. And it was just you and Brandon to start?
And Steve. I don't know if you've met Steve, but he's he has an interesting background. I thought it was a big asset to have him in our practice in the beginning, because he owned a restaurant in Brentwood for like 15 years. He was a chef for 15 years.
Oh, wow.
So he like ran that place, and he was the chef de cuisine and everything like that. So if anything, he had a lot more experience with business than I did, because I had nothing.
Right.
So like I only had, because I never would I have imagined that I would have opened my own practice and become an entrepreneur. One of the questions that you had sent to me was like, if you could talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you ask, or what would you tell them to do? I'm like, well, I would minor in business.
Right.
No doubt. So.
And I think people you have to be good at business in order to help people. Because it's like if you don't bring them into the door, or we don't have this social media and stuff like that, we can't impact as many people as we have the ability to. So it really goes hand in hand, as long as you're doing ethically and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So it started with 3 of you. Now, like fast forward now, like how many people on your team? Like, what do they do?
Well, a couple people have come and gone, but right now we have 6 practitioners. and all of us do kind of different things. A few of us specialize in women's health and reproduction. We have someone who does a lot of GI, someone who does rheumatology, oncology. So, we're full service that way.
Yeah, I think one thing that I've always admired about your practice is that you can treat all types of people. Like even personally, like my wife Kelly and I, we had some fertility issues, so we've relied on you and your team. We've brought our daughter Mia in for numerous skin conditions and all that kind of stuff. So it's cool to see how well-rounded it is, but it's also important for our clients and everyone to understand that it's not like a one-trick pony. There's like so many things that you can do.
Well, that's the thing with Chinese medicine is you cannot look at just one system. It's physically impossible to just say, oh, well, this person's coming in for back pain and I'm only going to treat their back pain. Well, no, there's always a reason why they have back pain. There's some sort of internal issue that we can identify that's kind of in the background causing that back pain. So, like I have a lot of people who are coming in to get pregnant. Well, I'm not going to just treat their ovaries and their uterus. It's like, well, they probably have an underlying digestive disorder, or maybe they have some like infectious process because they have mold exposure, and that's distracting blood circulation and energy going to their reproductive organs, that kind of thing. So it's like you have to look at everything. In order to be a true Chinese medicine practitioner, you have to look at everything.
So let's use that for an example, or let's say some of the clients that we've sent over, right? It's like usually when it's strictly musculoskeletal, obviously it's not only strictly musculoskeletal, but when we can target it with primarily those kind of modalities, then they do fine. Right. But there are a number of clients that their history, their subjective history, their medical history is really, really intense, to say the least, right? There's a lot of stuff going on. They've dealt with all these underlying conditions. And obviously you're coming to me for back pain, but I know
there's something else.
There's something else. We have a great community that we've been able to kind of build just to understand that I can't fix everything. There are a number of people out there that do a lot of things way, way, way better than me and can look at your body from a different lens to hopefully marry all those parts together. So like, can you give me an example of someone with back pain, like that would have typical back pain, but what are some of the underlying causes that you may see besides muscle spasm?
Well, it sometimes, so the first thing that a Chinese medicine practitioner would think of with back pain is, oh, there may be some underlying kidney issue. Okay. Not necessarily renal, but something within the kidney system. Like they may have a tendency to be cold all the time, or maybe they were born with a sort of constitutional weakness. Maybe they were like the last child in their family of like 6. So like mom has not a lot of resources by that time. So then that person may have been born with like an underlying weakness, and all of that comes from the kidneys, because that's sort of like what you're given to you as your constitution. Wow. So I don't know if that makes sense, but so those are some kidney issues. And of course, you can think of Western medicine as well. So let's say they had some toxicity exposure. They may have had some sort of neurological toxicity exposure that settled into their kidneys, and then that causes problems. So those are the types of things that we see a lot, and we always have to. And we look at their tongue, we look at pulses, we do a lot of abdominal and body palpation, and all of those things collectively tell us, okay, well, where are these persons' weaknesses, or where are their excesses? So then we treat accordingly.
Yeah, that's definitely like interesting, because sometimes when people have issues like orthopedic issues, it's like an idiopathic kind of start. Like, how did this, when it, maybe my questions aren't good enough to actually get down to what actually happened, because I don't, that's not in my scope. So like you guys have done an amazing job of like, I can't figure this out. Go to Wendy.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like sometimes we really have to pry. Like whenever I get an intake form that is basically blank, like, oh, everything's fine. I'm like, I don't think so.
Right.
So like, I can tell you like 95% of those people just aren't in touch with themselves.
Right.
You know, like they just don't really know how to identify or link certain disease processes. So yeah, like it's sort of like detective work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what's super awesome and fun about what we do, is like uncovering all these things.
Yeah, because even with our practice, I think we've done a pretty good job as far as subjective histories, but even getting an idea of their feelings and stress. Because everyone, you ask anyone like, how's stress? Oh, I'm fine. That's always the answer. But is there anxiety from this injury? Like, I want to get back to XYZ. I've been dealing with this for a year or two, much longer than I thought I was going to. But like, that is all anxiety. So being able to not only treat them orthopedically, but realizing that there's this huge autonomic nervous system component of it. Like they're living in a sympathetic state. How do we raise the parasympathetic state to kind of balance that, to allow to get their bodies to accept the treatment?
Right.
And I know from personal experience having acupuncture treatments, like I'm the most relaxed afterwards. And it's, I don't know if because I'm sleeping and snoring, but
it could be.
but you know, there's definitely something to it. And a lot of people that I talk to that go to acupuncture regularly, they feel so balanced afterwards.
Yeah. Right. Well, you know, going back to what you were saying about, you know, things that are difficult to identify with your patients, you know, I'm sure that Kelly has a different experience than you though, because she does NET, right?
Right.
So that uncovers a whole other level that can be extremely healing in a person's process.
Yeah, I don't even try to understand that stuff. I let her do her
Awesome.
magic, and someone's crying because this was connected to this. I was like, all right, that's cool.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing. Like NET is amazing for you know, because there are so many subconscious blockages to healing. So
yeah, it's multifaceted. If you don't know what NET is, it's neuroemotional technique. Dr. Kelly is a chiropractor, applied kinesiologist, so she uses this technique to help her patients. So as far as your clientele, like what kinds of things do you do to keep them active and mobile? Because that's if you call it our tagline, we try to keep people active and mobile. How do you guys do that?
That's your job, dude.
Yeah. But in case, you know, in case they don't come to us, like,
I know. Well, I mean, that's part of our assessment too. Like we kind of have to remind them and ask them about like, okay, what are you doing for yourself? You know, there's nothing that we necessarily promote. But you know, sometimes we'll do posts on social media, but you know, again, it's like sort of, we're like needling them to, okay, what are you doing? What'd you do this week for exercise? So
it's hard to get anyone to move. But I think the first step in getting people to move is getting them in a place where they can.
Right.
If they're always in a place where like
in pain.
Yeah. I can't even get out of my sofa and go down the stairs without being in pain. Like, so first and foremost, let's get you out of that phase. And then partially there's chemical issues going on, right? There's, you know, like you said, there might be underlying digestive issues and all that kind of stuff. Initially with us, we're not having them run a marathon. We're like, okay, can you stretch this muscle? Can you activate this thing the right way? Because you sitting on the couch watching Netflix all day probably didn't lend itself to you using your body correctly. So there are steps to getting people with the active and mobile kind of like transcends like many different lines, I would say.
Yeah.
What's a common myth about your profession?
That we're all vegetarian.
You're not, for
it's
sure.
Actually true. But it's so funny. It's like a sort of party conversation. Like whenever I meet people at a party, they're always like, "Oh, so you're vegetarian, right?" I'm like, "No."
What does that even mean? I've never even like heard that one.
Really?
No.
No, I mean, I think because they kind of lump all of us acupuncturists as being super uber healthy. So like, oh, well, then they must be vegetarians.
Okay.
So yeah, but that's a common myth. But I guess, but more common, I guess, is people often think that, they're a little bit, if they haven't tried acupuncture before, they're a little bit afraid of it because they think that it hurts.
Right.
And how many needles are you going to put in me and where are you going to put them? And, like, especially, this is great. Like with some of our reproductive patients, when husbands come in, they think that we're going to needle like down there. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that.
So even speak to, like, again, when people hear needles, they're like, holy crap, this thing's going to be like a big needle. But in actuality, can you describe how small those things actually are?
Yeah. So everyone uses every acupuncturist might prefer different needles. The ones that we use in our practice are 38 gauge, which, it's super teeny tiny. They're maybe like the size of a hair width. And then like in terms of length, it's maybe an inch long or an inch and a half. But even so, like that doesn't necessarily go all the way in.
Right.
Like oftentimes, again, in our practice, we needle sometimes perpendicularly, but oftentimes at an angle. So we might go oblique and, at a 45-degree angle or even 90-degree angle.
So that 38
and so you're not,
relative to,
like a hypodermic.
Yeah, like someone in like if you're going to the regular hospital,
that would be like maybe 28 or less.
Yeah. So it's
substantially smaller.
Yeah, because usually it's like when people actually see it, they're all like, that's it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I want people to understand that it's not like this huge needle like you're getting a cortisone injection or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. But then if you're thinking it's like the Matrix, it's a whole other story, or like what are some other movies that have acupuncture depicted? It's totally wrong. It's just for TV. So.
There's James Harrison was a professional football player for the Steelers when I was there. But there's like these photos of him where there would be like 100+ needles. Like,
yeah, no, I've seen that. And it makes me mad.
Yeah. So why does that make you mad? Tell me why.
Because that's a complete misrepresentation of what we do. Like when I saw that, I actually I regrammed that because I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Right.
I mean, because no one does that, I mean, and even that particular acupuncturist who works on him, I think that she does a lot of sports medicine. And I mean, I think it's all just sort of for show, and also in our clinical practice, if we use more than a certain number of needles, your body is just kind of like, what are you doing to me? Like it doesn't really know where to go with that information.
Right.
Because it's just too much. It's like an overload of information of what you're trying to do. We're trying to more subtly balance your systems in your body and not shock it with like 5 million needles and then put 10,000 cups all over your back.
But it looks cool.
It looks cool. That's right. It looks really cool.
Yeah. If anything, it's going to send you into that sympathetic state and you're not going to be able to do anything anyways. So
totally. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how we're in the midst of this COVID-19 pandemic. We've had numerous discussions about, even personally, like, okay, like, how do we do this? How do we stay safe? How do we make sure that we continue to take care of our clients? We are essential, but making sure we do it in the right way. Tell me a little bit about your experience the past 2 months.
Well, luckily I am married to Brandon Horn, who is an acupuncturist in my practice, and he is like the biggest germaphobe ever. So we actually had a lot of these practices in place, these sort of, sanitation and cleanliness and germs and stuff like that. I mean, but we've just kind of amped it up a little bit. So we'll keep our air filters on. They're IQ airs, and they filter out viruses and bacteria and stuff, and particulate matter, but we keep it on in every single room. We already wear gloves. Everyone switched to wearing scrubs. We wipe everything down even more. So if people have any kind of a cold, or if they say they have quote unquote allergies, then I'm sorry, you can't come in. Because what we've seen is, like, once we check people's pulses, And they're like, oh, I just have allergies. We're like, you don't have allergies. You're getting sick.
Right.
So, sometimes it's hard to differentiate. But so we've done a lot of different things to be super duper careful. And that's why we never ended up closing.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, our patient load went down, but, patients trust us and they know how meticulous we are. So I think that people were not fearful coming into our practice.
Right.
So it's been good.
And I think people misunderstand that. Like they think of when they think of medical, they think of like you're going to like your GP or something like that, like where it's just like a room of sick people.
Right.
And like you said, when clients come into our place, they feel like this is the safest place in the world. Mm-hmm. And not only is that good from a just an experience standpoint, but it creates an environment for healing.
Yeah. Right.
And we're always going to do the right thing for them. Like we're masked up. I have my mask right here. I'm in my enclosed room with you, but we take all the necessary measures as well. And I think it's letting people know that they're going to be safe, as safe as we can make it,
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. And then we actually instituted the everyone wear a mask policy months before it was mandated. And there were 2 patients that I remember who were pissed and offended. Oh yeah. They're like, I can't believe you're making me wear a mask. This is so unnecessary. And we're like, well, we really don't want to be a vector.
Right. So he or she didn't wipe their nose on your sleeve like that.
Not that day.
Or break your arm like a Target employee. Hear about that?
What's that?
Did you hear about that Target incident?
Oh, I've heard about a few incidents.
Oh yeah.
So people doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So
well, we always know that whoever we send to your place is always safe and they're always going to get the best care. So
yes.
Anything that I have not asked you that you want to share with our clients?
Well, I think that I kind of mentioned before that we try to establish a good relationship with our patients and they really trust us in terms of, of course, not only our office being clean, but just being on top of the research that's out there and knowing, kind of what's just health-wise, we have an overarching idea of your well-being. And I want people to remember that, it's funny. I think that in my specialty, because I do so much work with reproduction, people kind of forget once they have their babies, they're like, oh, I forgot that you treat headaches too, or, that kind of thing. So I want people, and that's part of what we're working on too. We want people to remember that we are very holistic and we can treat a lot of things. But we, of course, we do have a lot of patients who do remember us after years and they'll refer their loved ones or their mom or whatever to our office when they have something that's like a pivotal health change. So that always feels good. And I also get a lot of sort of random emails from patients who I haven't seen in a while. And they're like, remember years ago you told me about that mold specialist? Can I have that referral? So they remember that we're like a good resource for different things too. So
I have to admit that you guys are probably some of the biggest nerds I've ever met.
Thanks.
Yeah, you guys you're always at a conference. You're always you sent some presentations that Brandon did. I'm like, holy crap, this thing's 5 hours long. I was hoping for a synopsis or, but that's
that thing that I sent you was as synopsis as he can be.
Oh man. That's why I let you guys do you, I'm like, you just fix me or just fix other people. You don't have to explain. Just say, I did this. I'm like, cool. Yeah. I'll just make them work their core and their glutes and then they'll start to run. So I'm okay.
Yeah. I see. I can't do that. You can do that. Yeah, actually we're preparing, like it's going to be a busy summer because we're preparing for, we were asked to do a conference for this big fertility seminar. It's supposed to, we went a few years ago. Brandon taught a few years ago for this one conference in Melbourne. So clearly that's not happening. So they're like, well, we're doing it virtually. So do you want to teach? So, and then he's like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I'll teach and add my wife to the bill. We'll both co-teach. I'm like, what? Anyway, it's fine. It's fine. But I just wasn't expecting to be teaching about viruses.
Wow.
So we're doing a whole sort of Chinese medicine perspective on viral pathogens.
Wow. See you again. So like, let's go a little bit to something that's a little bit near and dear to my heart. Like Kelly and I, obviously we had some fertility issues. We've spoken about your specialty is fertility, and then like, at least personally, right? There's like the huge body component to getting pregnant and all that kind of stuff, but there's a huge emotional component as well.
Yes.
You know, that until you know our story, right? You know, like we didn't have great success with the first place that we went to. There were a lot of issues, and I was just starting the business, so there's a lot of stress encompassed in that. And then when you're spending a lot of money on trying to get pregnant, it's like it doesn't help, you know? But our second time around, we started, you know, we went to a different doctor that was super empathetic, listened to our situation, was able to make, you know, suggestions and changes, where our first doctor was like, no, we're gonna do the same thing again. I want X amount of money again. I'm like, come on, dude. And then having that in conjunction with the help that you gave us, you know, now we have 2 kids, you know, we're blessed, and it's like the best thing in the world. But like, what else do you, it's a huge topic, but from the emotional standpoint, how, from an acupuncture standpoint, like how do you help those lines or that kind of energy kind of release?
Like mental, emotional wellness in terms of, Well, okay. So number one, we do have Steve who does NET in our office, right? So that's number one. Number two, you know, acupuncture has an amazing effect on balancing out the hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal, ovarian axis. So we know that, you know, even though you might have this emotional stress, I can counteract it. Like I can dissipate how that affects your body so that it's not so in like fight or flight mode.
Right.
So that's really an awesome part of what Chinese medicine offers for anyone going through any fertility process, because it's the whole thing is stressful, you know, for everyone, for the female, for the male, you know, it's so many aspects of it.
Yeah. And I think it's important for people to understand that it is multifactorial, that it's not just like the meds that they give you to create the ovaries, and like, because it becomes so mechanical, where we know from a holistic point of view, there's so many factors that you don't even think of. Like my one good buddy of mine, he's not close by, but you know, he's had some issues with fertility with his wife and stuff. And I'm like, dude, you have to come down here, you know, and just get a different perspective. Yeah. You're not able to be here as often. You're not local, but it hasn't worked numerous times. You have to change something. You have to do differently. So, you know, hopefully I've recommended your place numerous times. So it's just a matter of him getting down here. So,
well, I mean, we do phone consults too.
There we go. See? So. That's another service that you did not share with us.
That's right. Well, yes. Okay. And we also have some functional medicine in our background, and, you know, Steve's a nutritionist, and anyway, there's a lot of stuff that we do. Yeah, I guess I didn't mention everything.
Yeah. So pretty much if you need to get fixed, go to Lotus. All right. So I'm going to end with 2 questions, personal questions.
Okay.
I like to get personal. If you could have dinner with 3 people, dead or alive, who would they be and why?
Yeah, well, okay. Number one, I would have dinner with Martha Stewart.
Oh, wow. Her and Snoop?
No, I'm not so interested in Snoop. I'm very interested in Martha. I have admired her for many, many years. Because she can do everything. Right. And she has been this amazing entrepreneur, despite going to prison and, all that stuff. If anything, that helped her sort of rebrand herself in a way. And I'd love to just pick her brain about, all the things that she did right, all the things that she did wrong. And, ask her how to make a croquembouche and, whatever. It's like a tower of cream puffs. Anyway.
Wow. Okay. Got it. You and Kelly can talk later.
Yeah. So yeah, Martha, I think she's amazing. I would love to have dinner with, there's a guy that I used to work with when I was in Chinese medicine school. It was my first job at an acupuncturist office, and he had a practice here in Pasadena. He's passed away now, but his name was Dr. Jeong, and he was the most amazing healer. Like, this guy he was in the equivalent of the X-Files in China because of the stuff that he could do with his Qigong work. It was amazing. And he never really taught anyone anything.
Huh.
He didn't pass along any of that stuff. His daughter never went into the medicine. He never taught anyone his special secret herb formulas. So, I would love to have picked his brain, but unfortunately he passed last year. So,
going to him, how, I know I'm breaking up your concentration, but for Qigong and energy and all that kind of stuff,
yeah,
I've experienced it with different practitioners. I'm how do you even explain it to the layperson? How does that even work?
It's acupuncture without needles.
How?
I don't know. Yeah, it is hard to explain. I mean, okay, so you've heard of Reiki. There are a lot of people who do Reiki. So that's healing with your hands. Mm-hmm. Except that he could do it from far away, or from, on top of the treatment table, or from across the room, or something like that. Wow. It's just, it's all about intention. And he cultivated that for his entire life. So he was an amazing guy. I remember my first treatment with him. Brandon came with me, and I was still in Chinese medicine school. And I was laying there, and then he was on the other side of the room, and he was doing this with his hand. And then Brandon simultaneously saw one of the needles in my body going boop, 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 boop.
Shut up.
Oh yeah. And then Brandon just about fell out of his chair. So he was amazing. But anyway,
magical.
Yeah. So those are two people. And then maybe the third person that I would have dinner with, he basically wrote a very classic Chinese medicine text called the Shanghunlin. And his name is Zhang Zhongjing. And he basically studied epidemics and pestilence. So it's very pertinent to what's going on right now with COVID-19.
Wow. Like I said, biggest nerd I even know. Biggest nerd. So how can our clients and whoever is watching find out a little bit more about your practice?
Well, we have our website, which is lotuscenter.com, Instagram, Facebook, where it's all Lotus Center. I think we have a YouTube channel, but we don't put much on there. Maybe we will. But those are the main things, the main platforms that you can reach us. And then, you could always call us or email us too. So.
Yeah, you guys do a great job on your social media, and some of the information.
Is it geeky? It's very geeky.
It's geeky and it's funny, and you have food on there too sometimes. So it's a good sampler platter of goodness.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah, and then the information that you put out there, it makes you think, right? It stops and makes you think, and then you're like, huh, yeah. And then it helps you reflect on your own situation and how things are going, and then helps you make a decision for yourself. It doesn't tell you how to think or what the decision is, but
right.
I think it's important that you share those things so people are educated on everything,
yeah.
versus just listening to what's
thank you for reading it.
I do. I do.
And understanding what I'm trying to convey. So thank you.
It's a little lengthy at times, but I get it.
Yeah, but you know what? Because I think that a lot of our patients and our followers are kind of geeky too.
Right.
So they appreciate the content. You know, because I was told don't make them too long, but I'm like, you know what? Then don't read it.
No,
We have
like,
some people who will read it.
those are the
and
ones
who'll
that I
get a lot out
share.
of
Those are the ones that I share. Like,
Yeah.
"Hey, read this. It might take you about 15 minutes, but you should read this one."
Yeah.
But okay. Dr. Wendy Yu, I appreciate you taking the time to speak to our clients and our following, and
It's been a pleasure.
wish you the best of luck moving forward.
Yeah, you too. Hopefully everything will get back to normal in the next, I don't know, however many months.
It will.
12 to 18 months or whatever.
No, I have faith that it will, and people will start to come out, and again, everyone's saying it's whatever is the new normal, and
Yeah.
you should have been washing your hands anyways in the first place.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's
and
true.
if you're sick, stay home, you know.
Stay
so
home, right. Yeah.
I think it reinforces not only like to me, but to everyone, like how important that is. And so, but part of life is getting sick and building antibodies. So, you know.
That's right. It is. Yeah.
So, but we will stop on that topic. We'll
Okay.
we'll end that one. So thank you for your time. Thanks, Wendy.
Okay. Thanks, Jason.
Okay.